All right, welcome to Ranting and Raving. So it is arguably the most fun, most interesting, and most full of it time of the year to be a Saints fan or just fan of the NFL in general. So it is draft season. That is where everybody is an expert, everything is definitive, the future is foretold. We all have crystal balls. It's actually it's a ton of fun. It's honestly, outside of just watching football, like easily my favorite part of the year is the draft, simply because you get to theory craft and analyze and project, and it's just a lot of fun. So we're gonna kick things off with the most important position, arguably in all of professional sports, which is quarterback. I haven't looked at every quarterback in this class. There's a couple of guys you may think of I didn't look at, so they're not on the list. If I didn't watch a good amount of them, so all the guys I looked at, I'll quickly go over the process. I'll briefly cover this in all the videos. I'm going to be breaking down a number of draft positions here over the next few weeks. Essentially, here's my process. So the first thing I do with any player that I'm going to look at is I watch somewhere between 1 and 3 highlight videos. So I start with the highlights for a reason. So the highlights should tell me the reason that what the highlights should show me is why do I want to watch more of it. Some players you watch their highlight reel, and that player's highlight reel is more other players doing things than it is them doing things. It's an instant red flag. Again, some of that depends on like position. Like I won't be looking or talking about offensive linemen simply because I don't know enough about offensive line play to have anything remotely close to an informed or intelligent opinion. So I'm not even going to try. Just straight up. That would be asinine for me to attempt that. So I'm not going to do it. So we start with the highlight reels. Then I watch a couple of games. Now, some of these players I actually just watched play a lot. I have a pretty good memory. I'll go back and I'll rewatch a bit. Um, I am not an NFL scout. I am not an expert. These are my opinions. So I'm not watching 4,000 hours of film, and you're not expecting me to. But I have watched a good amount of all the guys that will be going on over for all of these videos. And without any further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started here. So these are not in any particular order. I'm going to go through the quarterbacks that I did watch for this year's upcoming draft. For each quarterback, I'm basically going to go over the rough measurables, um, what I think about them. Essentially their prospect tier, so, for reference, a gimme is a player who you would sprint to the podium and take, given the opportunity, given no better players within the same tier, at whatever round it makes the most sense for their talent level to show up. So, some guys are a gimme player, but you're also not going to draft them until the third round. And really, just what that means is they're a great talent that projects really well, but it's okay to wait to get them. That's essentially what that scenario means as far as how I'm grading them. And then my targeted range is like what round I would draft them in, and that's essentially a projection of where I think they should go, not necessarily where I think they will go. So the last thing I'll do for each of these is I will throw up on the screen my initial impressions. So with all the caveats and explanations and mumbo jumbo out of the way, let's start talking prospects. So first on the list is Quinn Ewers, 6'2", 214, prospect tier, low interest. Why? Here's my issue with Quinn Ewers. There are even stretches of games where Quinn Ewers shows you most of the things I'm looking for in a quarterback. So, what I'm looking for in a quarterback are consistency, reliability, accuracy, but I'm also looking for poise under pressure. You're obviously looking for playmaking. Like you don't want to invest a draft pick in someone whose specialty is just dumping the ball off or throwing to guys who are just wide open all the time. Now, that's part of what can make scouting college players difficult is sometimes a guy's throwing to wide open guys all the time, but you can still see like he's making progressions, he's making reads. That guy was wide open because he actually faked out the safety, so on and so forth. Like there's some nuance there, but there's some things you don't want. Well, here's the problem with Quinn Ewers. There's a lot of times where he is accurate. His feet aren't horrendous. They're never really great, but they're not horrendous. Decent enough arm, decent enough athlete, quote unquote gamer, which usually just means white guy with some gumption. um, but you get a lot of that, but then also you get the Quinn Ewers that showed up against Georgia and against a lot of the quality opponents they had, and for large segments of games, even not against Georgia, where he's very skittish under pressure and his bad feet really show up and he makes bad decisions and he makes terrible throws and he doesn't elevate his game under pressure under those situations, under adverse circumstances. And it's more of a demerit against him because of the level of talent he's surrounded by, both last year and this year. They had tight ends, they had wide receivers, they had running backs. You have all this talent. Is the talent carrying you or are you elevating the talent? I'm not investing a high pick in a quarterback who can't elevate talent or isn't the talent themselves. And so that's why with Ewers, my initial impressions really for the most part matches my overall impression of him. Just yeah, his highs are high, but it doesn't really have it. And what I mean by it is, you don't really see him elevating others. You don't really see him elevating his own play in crunch time or pressure moments or high leverage situations, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm just not interested in him. He's reasonably talented. Would I take a fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh round flyer on him? Yeah, absolutely. You should be taking a quarterback every year until you have one. And then even when you have a starting quarterback, you should still be taking one until you have a quality backup. Just you take them later; it's less of a priority. So completely out on Ewers. Some people like him, I don't. Next guy on the list. Um, Funny enough, the anti-Ewers. So Jackson Dart is, pun intended, very much a dart throw quarterback. 6'2", 223, pretty good athlete. You'll notice for almost all of these quarterbacks, 40 times says not relevant. I don't care what 40 the quarterback runs. Even if they're like a dual threat running quarterback, I don't care. Because Anthony Richardson ran a great 40. Anthony Richardson's a terrible quarterback. Because at the end of the day, quarterback is about running an offense, on time, on target. If you can do that, the other stuff matters. If you can't do that, you cannot run your way to being a quality quarterback. And so I don't have a lot of interest in that player. Well, Jackson Dart is very interesting to me. So I think he's a guy I would definitely take top 20. He's a guy that I would be okay with taking at 9. I wouldn't have a problem with that at all. Again, the primary reason behind that is simply Jackson Dart has all the talent that you're looking for as far as arm throws, arm angles, not a huge cannon arm, but plenty strong enough to make all the throws you would like him to make. Good athlete, not incredible athlete, but very good athlete, strong kid, plays hard, can really make some incredible throws. There's enough upside with him where you can look at him and go, get him with the right coach and surrounded by good playmakers, which again is almost any young quarterback. That's a huge part of development. And this is a guy who could potentially become a really good player in the NFL. Now, here's the downside with Jackson Dart. Played under Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin runs a supercharger version of a high school offense. The offense does all the work for you. What I don't see enough of with Jackson Dart is, the types of things you need to do at the NFL level. Progression throws, throwing guys open. Although, again, he shows the ability to do those things, but the consistency, the reliability, the proclivity to do it, if you will, it's certainly lesser. It's not the main part of his game. There also was, like, he showed some ability to show up big in big moments, but he also showed a tendency to fold in some of those big moments as well. It wasn't for a lack of passion, like that part was pretty obvious, but like there were certainly execution issues. And so the number one question for me with Jackson Dart really is Lane Kiffin's offense. Is this a case where Dart will be better in the pros, provided he gets, with a good coach and good roster, which again is the caveat for almost any player, because he got away from Lane's offense and got to an offense that allows him to do the things he's shown he has the talent to do, but hasn't shown the consistency to do because he wasn't an offense that prioritized those things? Or did that super limited offense hide his flaws and he's not a high level processor? And he's not making those deeper reads, and he's not getting through those progressions quickly, and he's not able to, clean up and elevate his mechanics and throw on time on target at the NFL level. That's really the question. Jackson Dart is a high variance player. Now, to me, and this was my initial impression of him, I see a lot of Aaron Rodgers in him. I don't mean in the same tier of talent. Aaron Rodgers was an incredible talent. Now, he's a guy that dropped to the mid first round, but he was an incredible talent. But what I mean by that is he's a better athlete than you think he is. He's not like a 4-4 guy, but he's a better athlete than you think he is. Good size. Aaron had a stronger arm, but Jackson has a strong arm. Aaron's a guy who rebuilt his mechanics. Like we sometimes forget that, but like all those years he sat, like completely rebuilt his throw. But even then, like especially younger Aaron Rodgers, like those early years, before he became a playoff joker, um, there's a lot of backyard football in Aaron's game. There's a lot of backyard football in Jackson Dart too. Again, not saying he's Aaron Rodgers, but just I saw a lot of parallels when I watched him, and it makes him a very intriguing player. But we'll see what he becomes. Next guy on the list is Jalen Milroe. Now, we're just going to call out the elephant in the room. The prospect here says low interest. In parentheses, it says at quarterback. This is not a Lamar Jackson situation, and I really hope that anybody watching this is intelligent enough to understand. And here's what I mean specifically. So, Lamar Jackson, coming out of Louisville, had to deal with some absolute bullshit. Should he be a wide receiver? Should he be a running back? Bullshit. And the reason it was bullshit is Lamar Jackson showed high level quarterback play at Louisville. High level. Sure, he had some flaws in his game, but it wasn't even a dog whistle. That was like a dog foghorn. It could not have been less subtle, Bill Polian, with the BS that Lamar had to deal with. Jalen Milroe, when I say low interest at quarterback, is because Jalen Milroe is wildly inconsistent. Wildly inconsistent. He's not have a lot of games. He was able to find Steve Jones' ability as a high level. He shows his ability to make some great throws. But being a high level passer is not the same thing. Keep in mind what I established at the very beginning. One of the most important things I'm looking for in a quarterback prospect is reliability and consistency. This is the most inconsistent guy in this class. His talent level is insane. You watch him in an interview, it's almost impossible not to fall in love with this kid. I would so love to be wrong. His talent is ridiculous. His physical tools are amazing. Like his toolkit, the only thing you can knock him on is hand size. He's got little baby hands for a quarterback. And maybe that's part of why he has some of the throwing issues, but like even when you take outside of that, like he's just not a good, reliable, consistent thrower of the football. There is only one Taysom Hill. There will probably only ever be one Taysom Hill. The Taysom Hill comparison gets made way too often, partially because people forget what an absurd athlete Taysom Hill is. He's like 6'4", he's like 230 pounds, ran a 4.40. A lot of the guys they compare to Taysom run like 4.6s and 4.6.5s and 4.7s. Like, oh, he could be a Taysom Hill. No, he runs good for a quarterback. Taysom Hill runs good for a running back. They are not the same. Enter Jalen Milroe. If a team came in and said, look, And for the record, if you were going to do this, I think you should always be honest with the player. Sean was with Taysom. We're going to put you in this role. We're going to try to develop you. We're going to give you a chance. But the expectation is for you to produce for our football team. So you're going to do this stuff first. And if you show that you have the ability to elevate and play and be a quarterback, awesome. That's a huge win for us. Again, it would be an amazing story. I'd be super happy for him. You see him in an interview. He seems like an awesome kid. Like just everything character wise, poise, charisma, talent, all those things. He's a home run. You watch him play, not a home run. Like just not consistent or reliable enough to spend any type of high level draft pick. But in the mid rounds, third round and later, would I take a lottery ticket on the talent? If your worst case there is possibly getting a Taysom Hill level player, and your best case scenario is a guy who defies the odds and becomes an NFL starting quarterback. And with his talent level, he could be a really scary player. So that's really my viewpoint on Jalen Milroe. But would I invest a higher pick on him? Absolutely not. That is way too big of a risk. Way too big of a risk. Next guy on this list. Again, I said at the beginning, these guys are not in order. It's almost on purpose because they're in order. You're just gonna skip around. No one's gonna watch the video. And while I suck at PowerPoints, I did take some time and effort to put this together. So here's Cam Ward. Cam Ward is, to me, he is the easiest to. Well, he's the second easiest evaluation in this class. We'll get to the guy who I think is the easiest. And again, all of these are just my opinion, but Cam Ward is the guy who should go first overall. He's a gimme player. He's top to bottom for playing the quarterback position. He's the most talented guy in this class. Um, you see and hear, and to a large degree, a lot of it's very warranted. Like the comparison between this class and last year's class, and like this one doesn't add up, and all of that. Again, largely fair and true. Cam Ward would have been drafted pretty high last year too. Would he have gone top three? I don't know. I think he's been undersold of just how good he is. And that defense at Miami had a huge part in people kind of forgetting towards the latter part of the year how incredible he was through most of last season. Um, he does all the things that you're looking for in an elite prospect. Okay, can do all the little things, can read defenses, can throw the ball accurately, mechanically sound. He's not flawless, but mechanically sound. Second reaction throws, multi-platform throws, can make some wow plays that make you make googly eyes. Strong arm, really good athlete, for a quarterback. All those things, checking all those boxes. It's an easy evaluation. It's that simple. If he was there at 9, if he was there at 5, I'd trade up for him. He's not going to be there, so it's not worth discussing much further. But he's easily the best quarterback in this class, and that largely because I think he's by far the safest quarterback prospect in this class. Next guy on the list, God, that's a grainy photo, is Kyle McCord, 6'3", 218. McCord is interesting to me. So my thing with McCord is he's potentially a bit of a 1-year wonder. Only reason, because he is a 1-year wonder as far as production. When I say potentially, it's because that typically works out in one of two ways, especially at the quarterback position. For some guys, it clicks, and once it clicks, they're just good. Happened with Joe Burrow, happened with Jaden Daniels. Just a couple of recent examples. It clicked, and from the time it clicked, great quarterback. Maybe it clicked for McCord. Doesn't have a huge arm, but his arm's plenty strong enough. Again, can make all the NFL throws. Can make opposite hash throws, all those types of things. Can throw it 40, 50 yards down the field, accurately with velocity, hit guys in stride, all those types of things. Like the minimum threshold you need to hit to be able to really legitimately operate an NFL offense without being a liability. Can do all those things. Not going to blow you away. Not going to blow you away as an athlete. Not going to blow you away as an arm talent. Pretty accurate kid. Good solid mechanics. Crazy production this last year, but Like I said, a lot of this comes down to that simple question: Is he a 1 year wonder, or is he a guy where it clicked? And because that's a question, like if he had 2 years of that type of production, I think he's probably going in the first 20 picks. Because he only had 1 year of that production, and because he's not a blow you away tools guy, I think he's going to be a mid round guy. I think he's a guy where it makes sense to take a flyer on him in the mid rounds. The thing with quarterback is you only got to hit on one. You hit on one every 10 to 12 years, and you're at a pretty damn good spot. He's shown some upside, shown some attributes, but certainly not a sure thing. But again, the criteria is on time, on target. That consistency and accuracy. He's certainly demonstrated that. There's some questions about like reads and and especially like the longevity of his production, those things, which makes him a little bit more variable than you'd like. But with a mid round pick, why not? Dylan Gabriel. Dylan Gabriel is a fascinating player. First of all, I think he might be the oldest quarterback in this class. He's definitely one of the couple of oldest. 5'11", 205. Right there, we have our issue. Um, there are less than five guys under 6 foot or under, who have been really successful quarterbacks in the NFL. Um, to a large degree, it's a geometry problem. Offensive linemen are tall. You got to see over them. You got to see past them. You got to be able to throw the ball down the field. It's that simple. Now, can he get around that? He is a legitimate dual threat quarterback. He's a good enough athlete. He can run. He can run to throw, and he can run to run. He's got a strong enough arm, with enough velocity, can make, those short to intermediate throws, can make some of the longer throws, can put enough zip on it to get the ball there in time. Could he be a guy where someone takes him in the mid rounds? He ends up on a good team because he's on a good team, has, playmakers around him. He's able to operate, have a lot of success, a la like a guy like Russell Wilson. Could a situation like that happen? Absolutely. Would I be willing to spend a high level pick on him? No. And would I take him over most of the other guys in this class? Also, no. But he is a high upside guy simply because he is a good operator. He is that dual threat. Um, he does genuinely play the position well. And I do think way too often, especially with quarterback prospects, we don't value the whole is he actually good at playing quarterback part. We focus a little bit too much on the sexy throws and the sexy plays. And I think a lot of that has to do with modern discourse. Like, you look at a guy like Mahomes and he makes so many like jaw dropping plays, but people forget what makes Mahomes special is he makes those jaw dropping plays, but he consistently and reliably does all the little stuff. You look at a guy like Josh Allen early in his career. Josh Allen made a ton of jaw dropping plays. Wasn't a very good quarterback. Josh Allen became a good quarterback when he started reliably and consistently playing the position well. Still can make all the, oh my God, he just did that plays. But now he actually plays quarterback well, and he's a completely different echelon of player. That's something I don't think gets valued enough. And it's part of why, like, I'm not just, he's tiny. I don't really want him with Dylan Gabriel, but it's certainly an uphill battle for him, and pretending otherwise would be a little bit ridiculous. Next guy on the list is Will Howard. So I mentioned earlier that Cam Ward was the easiest guy, and then I said, no, actually, he was the second easiest guy. So Will Howard was the easiest guy for me. I want nothing to do with Will Howard. Now, again, I could be wrong. I'm not an expert. I don't have a fortune. I don't have a crystal ball. I'm not a fortune teller. We'll see what happens. But personally, I want absolutely nothing to do with Will Howard at quarterback. He's 6'4", he's 236, he's a pretty good athlete. Would I take him in rounds 5, 6, 7? Sure, but there's almost literally nothing I wouldn't try in rounds 5, 6, 7. Everything after round 4, and really most players after round 3, you're taking lottery tickets. You're hoping that your scouting and your coaching together have identified a player that you can optimize and create a productive NFL player. That's what you're doing in those positions. The likelihood that someone is going to play meaningful snaps in those later rounds is very low. Now, it happens every single year. Guys come in and they produce, but the reliability of that is far lower. Thus, why they're taken later. Um, and that is really how I see Will Howard. The theoretical Will Howard. The If you take a mashup, this is one of those players. If you look at his highlights, one of the problems with Will Howard's highlights is he's one of those guys where, man, everybody on this highlight looks better than Will Howard. Damn, that offensive line's good. Damn, that pocket's clean. Damn, those wide receivers are all wide open. Damn, that guy made an incredible catch. Damn, that running back is a stud. What exactly did Will Howard do? Now, again, I said just a minute ago, we discount playing quarterback. Well, you could argue, well, Will Howard played quarterback. He simply operated the offense as it was given to him, and that is true. Here's the caveat to that. While he did that, there's a difference between doing that to the minimum and doing that to the maximum. And here's kind of what I mean for that. You remember, I mean, other than really Tua, all those Alabama quarterbacks, they weren't any good in the NFL. Well, why not? Well, because while they were really good at operating and playing the quarterback position in Alabama, where it was pretty much just, hey, find one of the wide open guys and throw it to him or hand it off to one of these incredible running backs. Yes, you are playing the quarterback position. You are operating the offense, but you're not making plays. You're just executing what's there. And there is a difference between the two. And Will Howard, again, he can make some great throws. Like there's some arm talent there, there's some touch there. He's wildly inconsistent. Even if you look at this season, wildly inconsistent. And I'm not going to get Eli Manning. I'm not going to get duped by a really hot stretch for a few weeks and make me completely forget about the rest of the season. So like, I just don't have any interest in this guy whatsoever. He's wildly inconsistent, and I just don't think he's going to end up somewhere where the talent's going to be able to completely carry him. So that leaves us with the last guy on the list. So this is the guy I think is most likely to be drafted by the Saints, which is the biggest reason why I saved him for last, but also because to me, Shedeur is the most polarizing prospect in this class. 6'2", 212, around the same size as most of these other guys. Doesn't have a cannon for an arm, but his arm's a lot stronger than I think a lot of the conversation around him implies that it is. If you don't believe me, just watch his game winner against Baylor. And specifically, why I point out that play is because Shedeur is rolling out to his left, which is one of the hardest throws for a quarterback to make, and basically just with a hop step sets his feet and throws it 50 plus yards down the field pretty accurately for a game winner. How many times a game are you going to need to make a throw bigger than that? Almost never. You're not making 55, 60, 65 yard air yard throws, even attempts more than a couple times a game. He's shown that he has the ability to make those throws. There's plenty of stuff all over his film where he can make opposite hash throws and intermediate throws and throws with plenty of velocity. Now, does it explode off his hands? No, it does not. But does it get there on time on target? It does. But here's the other component with him. And this is the biggest reason why, to me, he's a gimme player. He's a guy I'd take top 10. If he's there at 9, I would draft him. And I would hope that you have the coaching and the staff to surround him with the talent that he would need, that any player needs to have success. I talked a minute ago again about, do they play the position well? Quarterback position is delivering the ball consistently, on time, on target. Shedeur Sanders does that specific thing better than any quarterback in this class. Does better than McCord, does it better than Cam, does it better than any of them. He is not just the most accurate guy statistically, but he's the most accurate guy on the. His ball placement and accuracy, he is the best guy in this class at throwing guys open, which is a really hard NFL skill. Now, he doesn't have, it's not that he doesn't have flaws. We'll get into those in a couple minutes. But when you look at especially a guy you're looking to take in the first round. You're projecting what's the best case scenario. When you draft Shador, you're drafting a guy whose father is a Hall of Famer, who's been surrounded by the NFL and famous people his entire life. It's not too big for him. He's not even phased by it. He's not worried by it at all. He's been mentored by Tom Brady for a long time and others. Here's where all those things matter. He's also a grinder. He's a guy who busts his ass, doesn't have his dad's talent, maximizes the talent he has. Went to Jackson State with his dad. Now, keep in mind of this. This does not get talked about enough with Shador. Shador was a top prospect. Travis was not the only top prospect that went to Jackson State. Shador was too. Now, he wasn't the prospect Travis was, but he was a top prospect. He had plenty of offers and plenty of options. He chose to go with his dad. Worked out pretty well for him, but he chose to go with his dad. That is in many ways a harder path because, yes, you went to an easier school and you went to an easier conference, but you're also surrounded by worse talent. Performed incredibly well there. Well, then he goes to Colorado. Okay. Relative to the competition you're playing, not much better talent than you had at Jackson State, performed pretty much the same. If at any time was given time to throw, consistently and reliably delivered the ball on time on target. Now, we can start to talk about those flaws too. Gets sacked way too damn often. Some of that certainly was on the offensive line. The offensive lines were terrible. Some of that was also on him. My biggest question was Shador. I don't worry about his arm strength. I don't worry about his character. I don't worry about his work ethic. I don't worry about his football acumen. I'm least worried. Him and Cam are the two guys where if they had to run a 2 minute drill to win a game as a rookie, I'm not worried about it. It doesn't mean they'll win 100 times out of 100, but I'm simply not worried about it. They've demonstrated that capability too much to just be like, oh, he can't do it. But here's where I worry about Shador: the sacks, but also specifically why the sacks happen. The pocket presence, the footwork, that part of it, you can coach that out. There's something you can't coach out. You can't coach out doing too much. So I've called it gross, nasty, disgusting. I hated the offense Colorado ran this year and last year. It's way too vertical. It's You can call it pro style, but it's Bruce Arians pro style, which just doesn't. It works, but it doesn't work. If that makes sense, you're putting a lot of pressure and you're putting the quarterback at risk a lot. And make a ton of big plays. You're also going to have a lot of sacks and probably give up a lot of interceptions. Now, Shador is extremely accurate, and it's college, so the interceptions are down. But that style of offense was like that. But here's the question: was that all the offense and the offensive coordinator, or is Mr. Flash My Watch It people constantly big game hunting? Was Shador a guy who doesn't want to take the layup and always wants to take the home run? That's the question with him. Because a lot of his sacks were simply him holding on to the ball too damn long. Either throw the check down, throw it to the open guy short, or throw the freaking ball away. Way too often he got sacked because he didn't do one of those three things when he should have. So that is the question. Is that because he's just naturally inclined for big game hunting and he believes that he has, S tier talent where he just has that singular ability to overcome the circumstances around him, and he doesn't have that. He's an extraordinarily high operator of the position for a college player. And if his work ethic and everything else continues to follow the same trajectory, could be that at the NFL level too. But he's not an elite talent. I'd say he's probably, of the guys I've talked about today, probably the fifth most talented, is just talking toolkit of those players. Now, he might be the best quarterback. His quarterback's not just about talent, it's about operation, about consistency and reliability. Talent does matter. If he really believes he's got that level of talent and that's the reason he's taking these dumb sacks because he thinks he can just make up for it with his arm and the legs that he doesn't have, oh, this guy's going to bust out. he's going to have a lot of problems. He's going to have a very rude awakening in the NFL where you are not playing Colorado's. And I'm a big believer that quarterback is a position where I don't really care about your strength of schedule and level of competition at the college level. I actually don't think it matters much at all because what you're really looking at in a prospect are, again, on time, on target, that accuracy, the consistency, the mechanics, the raw physical tools, the capability. How far can you throw? How far can you throw accurately? Can you throw guys open? Like those are the different things you're looking for. Can you play the position? It is an execution based position. It is not like cornerback where, oh my God, do I care about level of competition? And I very much care about your combine because it is vitally important. Quarterback less so. So for me, Shador is a guy where his elite ball placement and accuracy, um, his confidence, his consistent ability to rise to the occasion and being just very calm and cool under pressure, all those things have me extremely high on him. But man, does he get sacked a lot, and do I worry? I kind of mentioned with Jackson Dart. With Dart, the question is his lack of high level quarterback play. Is that because the offense he was in kind of doesn't really put you in a position to do that a lot? Or is he just not really ready for all of that? With Shador, the question is different question, but kind of the same vein. Are you getting hit a ton because the offense you're in you have all these fast big play receivers, and it's like, hey, just frick it, everybody run a 9, go. Shador will get it to you eventually. They'll make big plays. Eventually, we'll win the game because we'll make enough big plays. We don't really care if we get sacked, and he's tough as hell. He'll be fine. Okay, maybe it's the offense, and he actually, you know, can play more like his mentor and operate an offense quickly, efficiently, et cetera, et cetera. We're gonna find out when he gets to the league because that take the hits, bombs away, rely on big play style. Yeah, he ain't got the toolkit for that in the pros. So that's my thoughts on the quarterbacks in this draft. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Obviously, this video is a little bit longer because we had a bunch of guys to talk about. So I'm going to keep churning out content pretty consistently here over the next several weeks as we approach the draft. So, again, hope you guys enjoyed it. Feel free to give any feedback in the comments section. Again, I know there's a couple of guys I didn't cover. I didn't watch them, so I didn't want to talk about them. Agree, disagree, any thoughts you had, feel free to leave them in the comments section. Also, like, comment, subscribe, share, all those types of things. It's very much appreciated. It helps the channel, helps more people see it. And yeah, you guys will be hearing more from me soon.